How can we shift our perspectives or states of being to transmute frequencies into something that we'd prefer?
But if it's not being resisted, it cannot stay in the same state.
Welcome to the Frequency Files. Thanks for joining us as we explore the vibrations, forms, and creations and mechanisms behind them that inform the nature of existence. And today we'll be speaking with Chris Blackwell. Chris is a sonic frequency coach, healer, and creator of high-end frequency elixirs that combine essential oils and sound frequencies for deep transformation. With a natural gift for tuning into energy fields since childhood and a passion for music, playing the piano, singing, and writing his own songs, Chris has traveled through Bali, India, and beyond, learning from renowned energy masters. He thrives on group work and dynamic interaction that push creative boundaries. He uses sound activations, healing, energy, transformational coaching methods, and he really empowers people to clear subconscious and energetic blocks and to amplify abundance and well-being and step into their power. Chris, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks, so good to be here.
I know you've got a pretty vast journey, as many of us do. Can you tell us a little bit about what led you to the point you're at today?
Good question. I guess from a very young age, I was always sensitive, as a lot of us are, and I was always aware of what we now call energy fields, except back when I was 8 years old or 10 years old or 12 years old, we didn't have that word. So I was really aware of, I think it was when my mum and dad used to say, I have a memory of them saying, we're going to visit these people, that I would tune into their energy field unconscious, not consciously trying to, but before I met them. And then when I caught up with them, they would have that kind of flavor, that kind of general vibration that I had picked up. And I just didn't think anything of it. I just thought, oh, well, maybe it's imagination, maybe it's... So that was something that developed from a young age, and being able to pick up feelings that people were having and things in the energy field from a very young age. And I think over the years, I got led to things like astrology, things like, Reiki, neuro-linguistic programming. And then I got into, and I did music from a young age, and then, which we'll talk more about, I'm sure, but got into sound healing and all sorts of different modalities, and just refined that intuitive gift that I had from a young age. And now it's obviously, working with clients and groups with that now. Yeah.
As a young person, because you said these gifts sort of became more acute or started coming online when you're a young person. How did you manage that in a world where that wasn't the quote norm thing?
Oh, good question. I think probably felt a bit strange with it, or a bit like, you know, whatever they're saying is the little black duckling or the black sheep. I can't remember what it is, but so I felt a little bit out of place with it at different times, and at other times it was valued in certain sense by certain family members that were open to things like that, and in other senses, yeah, maybe you felt a little bit strange or a little bit different with it, or why aren't other people feeling this or interested in this? Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Sounds like, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like what I'm hearing is like there's another broader bandwidth of frequency or reality that you are able to tap into, work with, and relate to that maybe
Yeah, totally. And it was just normal for me. And I guess it's like, having a few notes on the keyboard, and then, I mean, everyone has access in a different way, and then having access to this sort of spectrum of notes or flavors, if you like, and being able to feel them and sense them, and even, resonate to the sound of them, the sound frequency of different things. It was just so normal, though. In a sense, it wasn't. In one sense, it was. I felt strange with that sensitivity. In another sense, it was so normal. I didn't know what other people were experiencing. I just didn't hear them talk about it. So I thought, oh, maybe that's not their experience.
Mm. Because something
Yeah.
that you do in your work is sort of interpret frequencies into sound. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So you've got what they call a sound that's created through two things coming together. For instance, a drumstick hits a drum, right? Boom. A hand hits the keyboard. Boom. My hand hits the table now. Boom. But if you go beyond that, there's a thing in Sanskrit that they talk about, or in ancient Indian law, which is called Nadi Yoga, which is the unstruck sound. So even without something coming together, like a clap, there's a vibration emanating from something, a pitch, a resonance. And so that's something that from a young age I've been able to hear. So if someone talks about a specific food, I can hear the pitch or the resonance of that food. If someone, a specific person, and they're going through something, they have a resonance. If they're feeling really good, that has a resonance. Everything has a specific pitch or resonance, and that's what I tune into. So whether it's a person or a food or something that somebody's putting into their body, without going into more details, it all has a resonant frequency. So it's like, well, what do I want to put into my body? What do I want to ingest? Both emotionally, mentally, and on a physical level. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm, mm. How do you attune to optimum coherent frequency? And what is frequency to you?
Oh, good question. Um, I guess everything is frequency. Everything is vibrating at a frequency. Our cells, our organs, everything. When people are talking, it's a frequency. For example, if someone's not having a good day, their tone of voice will drop. I'm not really having a good day. I feel amazing. So everything is frequency. How do I tune to a good frequency when I'm going through my own stuff? Is being in nature is probably one of the most powerful ones. Nature is just like a constant hum when I tune into the frequency of it. It's a constant hum, and obviously there's the oxygen, the negative ions, and all that. Chanting. I do regular daily chanting, which really changes the mind, the emotional body, the way the cells work. Meditation, just sitting in meditation, breath work. I work with essential oils. I have my own products with that. So I use those products, which are frequency based, and they shift my energy. And obviously, food, eating specific foods. If I'm not eating the right foods on a given day, I can feel that my energy becomes more dull. And if I'm eating certain foods, it's like it relaxes and opens, and there's more flow. Yeah.
Mm, mm. You talked about these essential oil products, the
Mm,
Harmonic Elixirs. How did that
yeah.
come about?
Okay, so I'd been working with essential oils for about 15 years before I had my own product, and I'd already felt them and as frequencies. Yes, they're smells, but I always related to them as sounds and frequencies. So frankincense has a specific sound. Cedarwood has a specific sound for me. They all have sounds and frequencies. And these have also been measured using different technologies as well, that they vibrate at different hertz frequencies. Um, so how it came about is one night um, I was at home and I couldn't sleep, and I kept getting these downloads to create my own blend. And I'd never thought of that before, but I couldn't sleep, so I just had to get up and create my own blend. And I created it, and then I felt the vibration of it, and it was like a ceremony. It was like it was making me, it was making itself through me almost. Then I showed it to some friends the next day, and they had an experience with it, an energetic experience with it. And then I think most of the 80% of all the ones that I made happened in the following month after that. So it just became this flow. The tap was open, and it was like it was ready to come through. Yeah.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
And they're four different sort of purposes.
Yeah, they kind of work in different ways. So each elixir is specific to a different purpose, but the elixirs themselves can be used for the emotional body or the mental body. so balancing out if there's stress or overwhelm, they calm the whole system, especially the ones that are specifically for that. They can be very grounding and uplifting at the same time. That's what I found with people have experienced, that they have a very grounding, and they can be used in meditation for manifestation processes. They can be used for, I've had clients, I made an individual custom blend for someone who was going through a big heart opening, and they use that every day in their meditation for heart opening. And then even I've seen it work on physical things, because once you shift the emotional pattern, then the physical starts coming into alignment. Yeah.
What kind of relationship do you see to our mental, emotional, physical selves?
With the elixirs?
With, I would say
broadly,
elixirs is a part of that, but more broadly as a knowing, as a concept, and as a practitioner, and as a seeker of truth. And
well, the way I see it is, it's essentially it's the mind that throws us out of balance. That usually comes from some sort of thought pattern that we've continued that becomes a belief, and then that cycles around, and that creates different levels of biochemistry in our body, different levels of, it might be, I am unworthy, I'm not good enough. And that cycles around that negative programming. And so all the stuff that I'm interested in is about getting that nervous system and that mind stuff to calm down, so that we can come into alignment, because our natural state is well-being. Our natural state is feeling good, feeling connected, feeling interested, feeling alive. So it's like, how do you pacify or dissolve or transmute that pattern that's just on, like a washing machine on a spin cycle? And so it's like, whether it's an elixir, whether it's sound, whether it's meditation, it's like bringing that into a new place so that you can come from a different frequency. And the first thing that anyone is seeking when they're out of emotional or mental balance is they're seeking relief. So it's like, how can you get someone to a point of relief? And once relief is there, then everything else starts to manifest positively.
And I suppose people seek relief in a range of ways, some that serve them and some that, maybe help them to cope in the short term, but maybe,
I think everyone's doing the best they can. So it's not really a judgment about, some people are taking drugs to find relief. Some people are taking certain foods. Some people are gambling. Some people are watching, 20 hours of TV a day. Some people are, everyone's doing their best. And of course they can shift it, but we have to first have compassion for where we're at. And then from there, we can take a step in a new direction.
Because of course, resistance plays a pretty big role when it comes to making change.
Yeah, absolutely. If we're well, like they say, what you resist persists. So you push against this. I don't like this. I don't like that. And when you're doing that, you keep that frequency alive. So I don't like the fact that this person or these people or this group or this politician or whatever is always doing this. And if you're in that state of resistance, you're at loggerheads. Therefore, that your own energy system is not relaxed, it's not at ease. The energy for the very answer you want can't flow in that moment.
Can you talk more into the mechanisms of that? Because I think, the frequencies on the planet are quite interesting, and there are numerous points of view about that. What's your sense, or what's your pulse?
To me, and it all happened around 2012, and I don't like to get into too many wacky conspiracies about 2012, but energetically there was a tipping point there where there was more light on the planet than dark, where there was more of an awakened consciousness. And since 2012, that's just sped up. So in my experience, and you can call it the Schumann resonance or the shifting vibration on the planet, that things are just so sped up at the moment. And so in the process of that, everything that was, if you imagine a garage that is dark, you don't see the mess. But the moment you increase the light, all the shit that was there, all the unprocessed or unresolved emotions, if you like, or patterns, all come to the surface. So whilst things appear worse, it's almost like the pimple has come to the surface now, and it's all the pus is coming out in society, so to speak. But it's not actually worse in my experience. It's heightening everything that was there anyway. And, this is why you see in a time of extremes where people are doing crazy things. Of course, social media, we see more of what's going on. And you've also got people coming through with new frequency technologies, people doing amazing things, people bringing through new technologies to clean up the oceans. There was a 19-year-old that I read about the other day that's got some way of cleaning the oceans without killing the fish. So you've got people poisoning and looting and raping and pillaging and all this negative stuff and creating wars. But out of that contrast is coming a new awareness, a new level of expansion and possibility. Yeah.
Can you speak into the role of contrast and expansion?
Yeah, absolutely. So in a sense, contrast, which is to some extent, I like this or I don't want that. That could be on a very basic level of like, I want this brown bread and I don't want this white bread. You're making a little choice. There's a choice set up for you, right through to I'm in this war situation, or I'm going through a dark night of the soul and I don't want this and I do want this. So without this level of contrast, in a sense, you cannot have a universe, because without any choice, without anything to expand to, there can't be what I would call the illusion of the next moment. You have to have this play of contrast out of which to choose something new. Now, you're choosing vibrationally every moment. Like if someone is unkind to you, you want them to be kinder to you, going into a little bit of Abraham Hicks here. But if you're being unkind, you're not in alignment and you don't want that. So at some level, you're wanting to be more kind. We all want to be in a state of well-being, and people only do so-called negative things because that's the closest thing they know how to do in that moment with their current belief system to get into a state of well-being. Yeah. But out of the contrast, that's what I would say, that expansion comes. And the more the contrast, the greater expansion. And as long as we're in resistance, we don't catch up with if we're just saying constantly the world is terrible, everything in the world is terrible, everything in the world is terrible, then we don't get to experience the expanded reality that we've created out of the contrast. We just experience the negative, but that doesn't mean that expansion is not there. The moment we're in a state of ease and flow and we're not fighting against life, then that becomes available to us. Yeah.
What have been some of your personal experiences with this concept of contrast?
Yeah. Well, many. At, I think, the age of 19, I was experiencing major panic attacks and anxiety, staying with my uncle and aunt at the time. There was family issues that my family was going through, or my sister was going through. And out of that, I managed to meet one of my first spiritual teachers from India. I'm not going to go into who the teacher was, and that's not the point of this. But out of that time where everything was falling apart, I guess the first spiritual awakenings came, or that, going to India was transformative in my life. And what I learned or realized when I was in India, or aligned to there, was transformative, but it came out of this feeling of everything falling apart, this feeling of not knowing my place, maybe things getting worse. And I've had different times in my life when I've been through various dark nights of the soul. 4 years ago where I couldn't sleep, I had days and days without sleeping, major anxiety, major exhaustion, all sorts of things. But out of that contrast, I guess new ways of being and insights were revealed that, though I wouldn't really want to go through it again per se, I can see that it wasn't wasted. And the contrast doesn't have to be that extreme. It doesn't have to be that extreme.
Sure.
But it can be. And, obviously there's people in the world that are going through, ridiculous levels of contrast, that they may not be consciously saying, I choose this. Yeah.
In your case, what were some of the key learnings that have come out of that?
One of the key learnings is that the sense, Eckhart Tolle calls it the inner body. Some people call it the I am. Some people call it the sense of presence, or the awareness that is not touched, as in, you and I are talking and there's ideas, but there's a space in which we are talking. There's something that's observing this whole thing, this whole conversation, or any conversation. And so it was becoming and putting my attention more and more on that background presence, that background, I would call it a sense of isness or aliveness. In India, they may call the same state Om. It is a vibrationally alive place, but it's prior to thought, it's prior to the problems, it's got a witness energy in it. So giving more and more attention to that brings that to the forth, and then starts to dissolve the patterns and the problems as well.
Wow, that's a pretty powerful frequency to be able to access. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, and there's other things, but that's the first thing that comes to mind. And what I'm passionate about in my work is helping people to connect to that presence. So even though I do different processes, this is relationships, this is on money, this is on that, I know that ultimately it's getting people to connect to that life force. Now, they're already connected to that life force, they're just not putting their attention on it. So you can't be not connected because the life force is there, right? But the moment you put attention on that life force and start, whether it's through breath work or meditation, or just focusing in on the sensations in your body, the alive energy in your body, that's the ultimate healer, right? Because it's prior to all your problems. Yeah. I could talk for hours just on that, but
no, that's okay.
That's okay. That's okay. That's enough for now. But I'm just that it's like people want to solve the problem by going out onto the branch of the tree, but if you go to the root and feed the root, which is the I am, which is presence. You could call it the Christ light, the Buddha light. You could call it spacious awareness. Each tradition will give it a different name, but if you give more attention to that, then everything is fed by that, and you'll feel the peace, the natural well-being, the natural ease, the natural aliveness of that.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier different ways that you cultivate that in your life. What are some ways that you suggest to our listeners, you suggest to clients to cultivate that and to ground deeper into those roots of their true divine self, or whatever language people want to use?
There's so many ways. Like, definitely just walking in nature is powerful. Just even without doing any conscious meditation, walking or being in nature, sitting near water, being out in the sun, all that's super, super powerful. Because nature is rooted in that being and doesn't have the crazy mind that we have that pulls us out. It's just rooted in beingness and aliveness. I would say, anything to do with connecting to, Eckhart Tolle calls it the inner body, but you can call it whatever you want, is connecting to that life force, is just sitting still for 5 minutes and just feeling the sensations in your body. And you can start by feeling the sensations in your hand, because there's more nerve endings, or your feet. Start just feeling your hands, feeling your feet, and just breathing in and out. And then if you want, you can start moving your attention to different parts of the body. In Buddhists have Vipassana meditation, you know what I mean? Which is just scanning your body and going around and feeling the sensations, whether they're negative or positive. So whether you choose to go and do a 10-day Vipassana course, even if you don't choose that, you can just sit for 5 to 10 minutes and just feel your body. And what that's doing is it's bringing all the energy out of your just being located in your head and making it more global. And so you're aware of just the life force, the throb of life force through your body. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And there's
then
so much power in that.
Chanting, eating certain food, hanging around with people that are aligned, people that have a high vibration, people that have your best interests, people that are not pulling on your energy, but are actually, there's a flow, and you feel expanded, you feel joy, you feel more peace, you feel good in their company. And then ultimately, the more you connect to this, you can be a beacon just for others, just by it's like the more you connect to inner being, the less that you need something external to make you full, to complete you, because the completeness is already there as a package deal in your nervous system, in your biochemistry, in your field. So you don't need, I don't know, you know this, but you don't need something external to create that.
Yeah, and it's such a fascinating opportunity and invitation, I'd say, like to reorientate our perception and our functioning. I suppose a lot of people have been conditioned, programmed, whatever you want to call it, to be very outside in defining self and world. And there's a real opportunity to be inside out and to, as you said, develop those more global senses, that more spatial feeling sense where we're literally feeling with our whole systems and our electromagnetic being to sense how we relate to self, life, environment, others. There's just so much power in that, and there's so much in our ancestry that is primed for that. And of course, there's different information about how somewhere along the line we became a lot more mental or mentally orientated or logistically orientated. And hey, that plays a role in life as well, and developing that function has been important in many ways. But yeah, I love that.
Absolutely.
Those suggestions are really powerful.
Yeah, and something else that's just dropping in is kindness. Kindness towards ourselves is something that, cool, blue water, I love it. Kindness towards ourselves is really powerful. Most of our self-talk could be about either someone else is wrong, or we're wrong, or the government's wrong, or this is wrong, something's wrong. But if you start bringing compassion and kindness to yourself, that starts soothing everything in your system, and naturally you start relaxing into more of a state of presence. So there's lots of different, as Bashar would say, the channel Bashar, there's lots of different permission slips to come back into state of presence or alignment or bliss or joy or peace or whatever you want to call it. So it's just finding the ones that are simple for you, but definitely, eating clean, whole foods, meditation, walking in nature, drinking water. They're simple ways to start the process. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's, it's so exciting with the broadening of things like the internet and more information being more available. People can access different tools and tap into different wisdom and knowledge to broaden their toolkit. And as with like so many things you suggested, there's a lot of things that are free.
Yeah.
Or low cost, like really it's amazing.
It's both, and it's myself, I use the low cost things, and then when I'm drawn, I will go to have a massage, go to a healing, do a course, have a coach, depending on what I need at the time. But yeah,
absolutely.
Whatever you're doing, if you do have a coach or you are doing other things, still you make use of those free tools that are just available to you as well.
Yeah. Like 100%. I resonate with that too. That there's both, right? But I suppose sometimes if people are feeling that restriction or whatever, or like, oh, things are out of reach. Just a reminder that so many, this is the abundance of the universe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mother Nature.
Absolutely. And, as for abundance, of course, you've got material abundance, and that's completely valid and awesome. But abundance is knowing your own fullness as well. And, you can have a lot of money and still not feel abundant, still be in a place of scarcity, or you can come back and realize what you've got through appreciation, or come back into the inner body and feel that fullness in your own system. And then you can enjoy the things that come to you, but you're not relying on them to fill a hole inside, which can never be fulfilled.
Yeah. Can you speak more about that? Because I think that's an interesting theme to explore, that abundance and maybe people's connotations with what it is or isn't, or what is and isn't in the scope of abundance.
Yeah, and I think there's different levels of abundance that we could talk about. And, we're very much, I guess, conditioned to think of abundance as money, and it's one aspect. And as you may know, I work in help. One of the things I do in my work is help people clear money blocks, along with other areas. So I'm certainly not anti that at all, but I will say that if you think that that's going to give you the peace and fulfillment that you're seeking, you're going the wrong way around. It's it's an outside in approach rather than inside out. If you have the fulfillment inside, then the soulmate is a bonus, the money is a bonus, the this is a bonus. Everything becomes a sort of benediction or a bonus rather than something that fills you. And I think we're so conditioned to have, a house and 2 kids and a Honda Civic in the drive, and these things, when I have this will make me happy. But if you look at people who have these things or other things, they're not all happy. Now, you could have a billionaire who's extremely happy because they understand that connection to the inner being, or they're in service. But that alone doesn't bring you the feeling of abundance. The feeling of abundance is a knowing of who you are. It's a knowing that you're connected to source. It's a feeling of your aliveness. It's a feeling of your power, or the power that's flowing through you. And when you're not in a state of resistance, like we talked about before, which, to be honest, everyone every day has moments when they're not in a state of resistance. It's just that we go back to it quickly,
Yeah.
But when you're not in a state of resistance, your natural abundance is there. And then you're more likely to attract those things on a external level as well, because there's nothing, you're not pushing it away. Yeah. Yeah.
Chris, how do you, and I know this is a skill that you've developed a lot over your life, how do you define intuition, and how can people strengthen theirs?
Yeah, it's I know that different people's intuitions work slightly differently, and you can see that for those who have studied human design, different modalities, that there's different ways that people can work with the intuition. One way, which is certainly something that I resonate with really strongly, is the yes-no game. When you think of something, if you have 2 options, which one gives you more of a feeling of lightness? Which one gives you a feeling of more energy? So say you had 2 jobs that they both wanted you to work for them. One is somewhere you like more, the setting more, and one gives you more money. But when you actually tune in, does your body feel lighter with this one? Does it feel a contraction of energy? We're constantly being given signals on things, but because we're not taught to follow that, we go with our mind. But our body is like, there's a book, I think, The Body is the Barometer of the Soul. The body's giving us feedback. On the whole time. You know what I mean? Our emotions and our mental body is all translated through micro movements of the muscles and the cells and the flow of energy. So, do you feel expanded? Do you feel relaxed? Do you feel at ease when you think of something? Or do you feel contracted? And I'll give a very, very quick example, super simple example of how quickly our thoughts affect our body. So We can either close our eyes for this or keep them open. Either is fine. But so if you think, or the people listening, if you think now, I want you to think of someone that you don't like. It could be a politician, it could be a mother-in-law, it could be anyone. Think of someone that you don't like or even hate, whatever it is, dislike strongly, they rub you up the wrong way, or a situation that's rubbed you up the wrong way recently. And I just want you to notice how your body feels. And I want you to notice how your breath feels, what's happening with your breath, what's happening with the sensations in your body, and what emotions you're experiencing. So breath, body, and emotions, just from thinking of this person or this situation. And I'll get you to shake that out. And I'm going to ask Sarah if you're able to say what you felt when you were thinking of that situation or that person.
Yeah. When I felt into the situation, I just felt a real heaviness in my solar plexus.
Yeah.
And I felt my system contracting.
Yeah. Interesting. So you can see there how quickly that, the mind-body connection, that thought, okay, so now we're going to do one which will probably be a lot more pleasant. Dun, dun, dun. Closing your eyes, ladies and gentlemen. And I want you to think of someone that you love. Could be alive, could be passed away, could be a spiritual teacher, could be, granddaughter or grandson, absolutely anything. Someone you love, and just notice how your breath feels. How does your body feel? How are the sensations in your body? What emotions are you feeling? These will change instantly depending on whether you put your attention. Okay, now shake it out. Come back. And how did you feel on that one?
You know what? I got really emotional.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, like I started welling up a little bit.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can see the difference, right? One is, you got emotional, but it wasn't a contraction, I imagine.
No, it was just this, this overwhelming warmth and love and expansion. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, we did that with people, but you can see the same mechanism applies for everything. So, this is not a safe world. If you start reflecting on this is not a safe world, how's your energy? This is a safe world. People are looking out for me. I have support. What happens to your energy? Or my business,
100%.
my business is not going well. Money's in short supply. This is all sending a message to your nervous system, There's an abundant and limitless supply. I'm always being supported. Then your energy expands and opens. So
totally.
So it's really being aware of where you put your attention. Yeah.
100%. And with that, like what you're saying of affirming the states that you want to embody, or the states that you would like things to be in. There can be a lag time, right? In creating that new set point, and then reality so-called catching up to what we're affirming. So there is some trust. And I suppose the importance of those energy management tools to keep anchoring the preferred frequencies.
Totally. I mean, the old pattern will often come up and say, that's not true, that's not true, that's not true. So it's like, what tools do you have when that comes up? And it may be doing inner child work and breathing through that. And, it's always powerful to acknowledge and not make wrong the resistance, because then you're resisting the resistance, and then there's twice as much.
Yeah.
But where can I make this right? Where can I allow this to be? It's like, how can I allow and welcome in almost this resistance? Because, what is resistance? Pushing against. What is the opposite of resistance? Welcoming.
Allowing, yeah.
So it's like that could be a tornado of anger or fear or anxiety or anything. And what if I can welcome this? This is such a powerful tool. This can do more than 2 weeks on a retreat potentially. Obviously there's amazing, incredible retreats out there, and I've been on them myself, and I run retreats.
100%.
But 5 10, 15 minutes of welcoming. Okay, I feel this pain, this rage. I feel this sadness. I feel this grief. I feel this sense that, the story may be nobody loves me, or nobody sees me, or nobody wants me, or nobody understands me, or I give to everyone else and no one gives back. Everyone's got a different story, but usually it comes back to some sense of I'm not enough, or I don't deserve, in some form or another. But what if you could just let that be? What if you could just welcome that in and go, wow, there's this energy? Because if you drop the story behind it and you just let the energy be there, the energy of anxiety, for example, is the same energy as excitement, but put through a different belief system. So you go
Yeah.
on to a roller coaster because you want anxiety, but because it's framed differently, it's called excitement. But it's the same energy, like the roller coaster goes up and you're like, you know what I mean? But you're going, wow, and of course it can be a mixture of anxiety
Sure.
and that, but it's the same energy. But if you can welcome, the more that we can, and this is one of the things that I'm big on and I work with myself, is like bringing it home. And then you're manifesting not from a place of I'm trying to push away all these things, like, oh, I don't want to manifest that, I don't want to feel that, I don't want to do that. That's resistance. And then you're just welcoming it all home. Like, welcome anger, welcome rage, welcome I'm not enough. Well, welcome it in. And from that place, there's space, there's peace, there's ease. That same energy that you might have called rage or pain or sadness or distress, or can turn into peace or excitement or love. You don't need to control what it transforms into, but if it's not being resisted, it cannot stay in the same state.
Yeah.
So you're welcoming it home. And I think that's one of the big pieces, I think, in the manifesting community that's possibly missing, is that there's often a like, oh my God, I can't feel that. Oh my God, I shouldn't be feeling that. Oh my God, I shouldn't be thinking that.
Yeah. It's
Which
too negative.
sometimes creates more of a resistance, rather than going, okay. Because then you're just at war going, I shouldn't be feeling, I shouldn't be thinking, I shouldn't be feeling, I shouldn't be. And you're just keeping that very vibration that you want to go away in place by the resistance,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. That allowing so powerful. And as you say, like developing your inner tuition, your ability
Good one.
to
I like it.
is so powerful. And then greater vocabulary or ability to tune into what your system needs in the moment. Does it need a massage? Does it need an astrology reading? Does it need to go on a 40-day course? Does it need to go on a spiritual pilgrimage? Like developing your body literacy, your system literacy, like incredibly powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's so many layers or nuances to that trust, that we can just like, it becomes like another muscle, like learning and trusting that. And people say to me, sometimes clients will come and say, oh, I don't know if I have an intuition, or I don't know if it's my intuition. And very much that's often just from not trusting it. And if you start trusting it, when I started my work with working with sound and working with everything, it was baby steps. Like I didn't jump into what I'm doing now straight away. At first it was like, oh, that's weird. Oh, I'm getting this information, or I'm getting this sound coming to me. Oh, it was hesitancy a little bit at first, like getting used to it. Oh, can I trust that? Can I trust that? And then over time, you go longer before the mind comes and doubts. And then you just, trust more and more. Yeah.
Can we have a little taste of these sounds that you make, that you create?
Sure. So why don't I do a little mini sound meditation for, what's dropping in now is heart healing. So a lot of people have got a lot going on, overwhelm. So I'll just do some sounds for the heart, and we'll see. So yeah, close your eyes, deep breath in and out. Okay, and I want you to just focus on your heart chakra, center of the chest region, and just feel into your heart and take 2 or 3 deep breaths in and out. Before we even start the sound, I want you to breathe in some golden light, almost like golden syrup. Beautiful golden light into your heart chakra. And just receive these sounds and this balance. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And just feel inside and say to yourself, either internally or out loud, I am safe. I am connected. I am being supported. Beautiful. Now come back to the heart. And now listen to this and say this inside. The right people, the right places, the right circumstances, the right events are coming together so that I can co-create the most amazing, beautiful, and satisfying things in my life, whether they are small, medium, or big scale. I receive it all. The right people are coming into my life. The right clients are coming into my life. The right connections are coming into my life. The right travel plans are coming into my life. The right understanding of health. The right practitioners are coming into my life to support me. Everything is coming in to support me to have the most creative, aligned, beautiful, heart-based life. And just feel that deep breath in and out. I want you to just say something to yourself now, something kind that your nervous system, your cells, your inner child, if you like, has been craving for you to say to it. You can just say it internally or out loud if there's no one around. What is your body, your nervous system, your emotions, your inner child been craving? It might be you're doing so well. It might be I love you. It might be I've got you. It might be anything, but just say something, because just know that your cells are responding to everything you communicate to. That inner child is responding to everything you communicate to. And now I want you just to connect quickly. And I know we're doing an abridged version here of something which could be a lot longer, but just to give you guys a taste, if you were to connect with your inner child now, maybe they're 3, 5, 7 years old, that innocent, intuitive part that's still connected to spirit, and ask if it has any messages for you. Does it have any guidance for you? Maybe you feel it, maybe you sense it, maybe you hear words like celebrate, have more fun, love yourself more, eat well. It could be anything. Does that inner child have any guidance for you? And just receive that. And just to complete this mini meditation, we're just going to go now down to the base of the spine. We're going to connect with the base chakra. And we're going to chant. Now, you can just do this internally or out loud if you prefer. We're going to chant the sound Ah as we connect to the base chakra. And we're going to feel the color red in the base chakra. Deep breath in. Ah. And again, 2 more times, the sound Ah and the base chakra, grounding our energy. Ah. Ah. Beautiful. And just to complete this, I've got a message that maybe for one person who's listening, it may be for more, but the message is it may be someone who's been going through something difficult or has a big choice coming up. But the message for this person or these people is have faith. The answers are on the way. Miracles are coming. Be gentle and kind on yourself. I feel that message is for someone who's listening to this now. So it's really, really coming strongly through. Be kind on yourself. The answers are on the way. It's not what you think. The circumstances currently are not what you think. Beautiful. And so for everyone doing this meditation, we're just going to imagine to complete that there's a beautiful sphere of white light surrounding us, maybe out a meter or so from our body, or you can pull it closer in if you want. It's like a sphere of white light. And I want you to take 2 or 3 deep breaths in and out. And just slowly coming back to your body. Beautiful. I was going to ask you, Sarah, if you had anything to share that popped up in that meditation and any part of it for you, or no pressure.
I think I'm still in the bubble of it, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a bit of an abridged one because I know
it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was really beautiful.
Budget.
I think I'll have to go lie on the grass to go ground it down a bit. Yeah. I'll get back to you on my reflection. Maybe it'll come when I lie on the grass. Chris, how can people connect with you further?
Yeah, well, they can connect with me through my Facebook page. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, my website. Yeah, I have all different services available to people, ranging from one-on-one sessions to larger group work. And I've also got a 15-minute session which people can work with me for 15 minutes to see if they resonate with my work. That's available for anyone who's on your podcast. They can contact me.
Fabulous. Thanks, Chris. Super appreciate your time.
Awesome. It's been good to be here.